Welcome to Between Sundays, Practical Discipleship for Everyday Life. I am Tim Beck.
And I'm Beth Ortiz.
And we are really excited about today's conversation because we're going to talk about overscheduled youth and how that relates to discipleship.
I feel like I actually need to apologize to everybody at the beginning of this episode because not only are we going to have Marie Carley on, that's not what I'm apologizing for, actually. She's awesome. But we're in Tim's other area as well, his other hat, and he's really passionate about it, and it's super annoying. So I apologize to all you people for experiencing the overdose of passion that is going to be coming your way.
Just you wait. Let's do something fun. Speaking of passion, we are going to talk about awkward stories for a youth group lesson.
I just want to know, how is that your passion?
Because
your passion is awkwardness?
I have been in youth ministry for 32 years, and I have been a part of, or either the facilitator of, a lot of awkward conversations. Because what's not awkward about talking with middle schoolers?
I mean, in fairness, I think most people find talking to me awkward. So, I mean, I'm good to go.
So you're right on the level of a 13-year-old. So that's good.
I like to think I'm that old.
That's good. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. Middle schoolers are awesome.
I look horrible for 13, though.
But these conversations might be a little awkward with your middle schooler. And you're starting us off, right?
All right.
Here we go, number 10.
And we all remember that these are all biblical.
They are.
But when Noah gets drunk and loses his clothes.
And yes, he does.
I mean, I got to admit, my youth directors did not cover that story.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I remember number 9 when my youth director gave us a lesson on Song of Solomon, the entire book. And yeah, that was cringeworthy, awkward.
Again, none of my youth directors did that. I did not know that was a book until I was solidly a grown-up.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I feel fine with my life. Just
that's okay. All right, you got it.
Alicia's wait. Oh my gosh.
It's number 8.
Now it's in my head.
Elisha. Yeah.
All right. Number 8, Elisha's bald head incident, when the people make fun of his bald head, and so then he has bears maul them.
It wasn't people, they were children. They were kids.
All right, that makes it worse, but still awkward no matter what, and a lesson to all of us for making fun of bald-headed people everywhere.
That's right.
Watch out for bears.
Yes, be careful.
Which are coming back in Ohio.
Bears?
Yeah, which is a good thing.
Bears?
But
Who
not
bears?
Not maulings.
Okay, gotcha. Number 7, the law about where to bury your latrine, found in Deuteronomy 23, verses 12 and 13. Apparently, it was a sensitive topic, but a very serious one in the Old Testament.
I mean, I'm going to actually stand by that. I think that is something, regardless of awkwardness, just in case you ever need to dig a latrine, that you do cover that.
That's good idea. Yeah.
So, all right. Now we have more baldness about when the women mocked it, and then again with negative consequences. So really, I think
they went bald is what happened in that story.
I mean,
I think they were killed.
I just really feel like there's some oversensitiveness about. We didn't create this list.
No, we did not.
And I think there's some sensitiveness around. I think whoever did was bald.
Maybe so. AI.
AI is bald.
Number 5, favorite passage of scripture to teach your 7th grade boys. Proverbs 26:11, as a dog returns to his vomit, so a fool returns to his folly.
I really got nothing on that because it's just solidly true.
It's true.
Yeah, so got nothing. All right, so number 4, awkward stories to work with our youth groups here. Lot's daughters get creative after the destruction of Sodom. Again, I actually just feel like some of these things I don't want any follow-up conversation on. Yep, just go to number 3.
Oh, great. I have to pronounce this word. Jephthah? Is that right?
Sure.
Sacrifices his daughter. I don't know if this list is even appropriate. We might have to edit this whole thing out. So,
I mean, we're just telling you stories to avoid.
Yeah.
This is actually, we're standing by this.
All right, number 2.
All right, Miriam gets leprosy for gossiping about Moses. Probably not what we should teach our youth, but maybe consequences of gossiping does feel like a pertinent biblical lesson for some people, though.
Absolutely.
I don't think in general it's leprosy, unless it's social leprosy.
And it's not just
Is it metaphor? It's a metaphor.
Maybe.
Now, like you shouldn't gossip because.
But that could be a lesson for other generations.
Oh, that's what I mean. I think this is an all lesson here. Actually, maybe least for youth.
Maybe. And number 1, Uzzah touches the Ark of the Covenant and dies instantly. But all I could think about was Raiders of the Lost Ark. And, well, we won't say what happens when they look at the Ark of the Covenant, but anyway.
I haven't seen this movie, so I'm just going to assume that it's jolly good and they'll have lollipops or something. Then once again, Tim has left the set. Well, now that Tim's back.
I'm back. I'm sorry.
This is an interesting, I got to say, actually,
Contractually
100%. These all would be awkward stories. So
Absolutely.
That is good. I feel really awkward about this. And so I'm really happy that soon we'll be done with it and instead talking with Anne Marie. All right. Well, again, we are so excited, Anne Marie, that you are here with us. And so we'll just start with what do you do, both your title and how you describe that.
My title is currently the Director of Engagement with Children, Youth, and Young Adults for the Ohio Episcopal area of the United Methodist Church.
Ooh, I don't. So we've been counting up how many words are in anybody's job title. You might have beat.
I don't know.
Yeah, Julie. That's close.
We have to count.
We're going to have to do a count at some point. But sorry, continue.
So what that looks like changes on a daily basis, whether that's meeting with grown-ups who work with children or adults who work with youth or young adults, and really working within the system to provide space and a platform for young leaders to lead.
Awesome. Well, and I think this is probably a good time, too. We alluded to it once before in another episode, but Tim wears two hats with the conference. So, Tim, what's your other job title?
So I work with Anne Marie and the others in the Connectional Ministry team as the Associate Director of Engagement with Youth, but most of my role is leading adult leaders, offering training, cohorts, retreats, things of that nature. So.
All right. So I'm here with two people, I would say, I think I can loosely say, deeply committed and passionate.
Deeply committed?
Not like to
the
a
work.
facility, to the work. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like I didn't say to somewhere.
Gotcha.
That's an important, yeah. I was trying to be nice for
I
once.
know.
This is fine. I'm going to be nice to Anne Marie.
Go
Forget
for it.
you. So I'm just curious, who was somebody when you were younger who impacted you faith-wise?
Wow, there are so many people that it's hard to name just one. But I grew up in a household of faith. Both my parents grew up in different denominations and got married in a Methodist church. You know, like lots of Methodists come to be Methodists. They were somewhere else beforehand. But it was important back to my great-grandparents. And I remember sitting and watching them read their Bible in the evening if I was at their house. But not just reading the word, but actually following through with the word. My grandma owned a beauty salon, and many times she gave away haircuts more than she took money for haircuts. She actually cut my husband's hair when he was in college. This was before we met. And for payment, he would come and clean because he was a poor college student. So, yeah, I would say my family, my parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents had the biggest influence on my faith.
Awesome. Tim?
Well, for me, yeah, I think, the right answer would be like your family, parents. My dad was a pastor, so I legally have to say that my
I was
dad-
going to say, by saying it's the right answer, it kind of makes it sound like it's not your real
No,
answer, right? Like Anne Marie's was real. You're just lying.
No,
Like, oh, it's you, Dad.
no, he was a positive influence in my life for sure, and I'm definitely
Made you go to church every Sunday.
I mean, yeah, you did by choice, but
Yeah.
I am very thankful for the foundation. I was the youngest of 4 kids, so just to be a part of a loving family obviously was important. But then I had key youth leaders in my life that just poured into me at that pivotal age, middle school, high school, that I certainly cherish and appreciate. You might as well answer too.
Well, and so I actually, I think for me, it was my Aunt Mary Ann is one that I'll say, and she was our children's choir director. And I'm horrible at singing, and I always have been. It's natural, so that's good. Other people try to beat this bad, and they can't. But I did love, we had a yearly Christmas drama that I really loved. And what my Aunt Mary Ann taught me was you don't actually have to be good for it to be worship. Now, she kept trying to make me better. We have 9 cousins, and I am the worst by far. And so I think she kept hoping there was hope.
I see.
But actually, the fact that she wouldn't let me quit, and she made me stick with it and said it's still worship has really kind of stuck with me of like, it's not always, our best doesn't always have to be great for it to be meaningful in discipleship and in following Jesus. And I think that has really stuck with me as I'm just horrible at everything. But now I know it's okay.
Right.
So I love though in your story. Now you did talk about your dad, but yeah, he was your dad outside Sunday as well. But in Marie, what I heard in your story, the people you lifted up, it was how they live their everyday life.
Right.
And that is the model of who really impacted all of us in our lives. Now, and I want to honor, though, that a lot of church and a lot of church folk really feel like they want to try and reach younger people. And I don't know if we're always successful or if we're going by right. And one of the things that is a struggle is the overscheduling of youth. And so I just in general, as we look at youth today, how does this overscheduling affect their ability to, I would say, I divide this into two, create a lasting faith, but also connect with established church?
Loaded question.
It is
You're
a
the
little.
guest.
Okay, I'm the guest.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
No pressure.
That felt like he was throwing you under the bus.
Uh-oh.
You can throw him back under that.
Engagement with you.
Yeah.
That sounds like your wheelhouse here.
Well, I think that, youth in general, young people in general, have always been overscheduled to some degree, but they make time for what is valued both in their household and in their own lives. And youth today know what they value. We just listened to a report on Gen Alpha, who are teens today, and they know what they value. And oftentimes, maybe the church isn't showing those same values, the things that they value. And if they saw the church valuing things that they value, they may be more attuned to put their investment in time into what the local church is doing. So I don't think we're ever going to solve the overscheduling problem, because that's a life stage of students just trying to figure out where they fit in life. And if they don't have a local congregation that aligns with what they value, then you're not going to find them there.
Well, I'll let you answer in a second, but I'm going to answer first. With value too, I think they also respond in places where they are valued.
Correct.
And not valued for the sake of having youth, which is a different thing than being valued individually. And I think too, as adults, that's one of the things of our way that we can be living our discipleship is to value all leaders, including the younger ones. And that means also maybe at some point sacrificing the way I like something done in order to make sure you do feel valued. And I mean, so I think for me, that's a key part too is, yeah, we need to be reflecting what they value, but we need to actually value them.
Well,
Yeah.
and if we don't value what they value, then we aren't valuing them as people.
Yeah.
Right.
Because everybody is designed and created by God and has gifts from birth. And everybody has something to bring to the table. And without young people at the table, the whole kingdom is not represented.
Yeah, and in all seriousness, this is something we talk about a lot, and we've had many conversations with other youth leaders, children's directors. We've listened to the research, and it's an ever evolving stage of life for students. The culture is rapidly changing, and just like with a lot of things in the church, we're playing catch up. Hopefully, we are playing catch up. Otherwise, we're just stagnant. But I like the values word because it just means, at the most basic level, how can we become more interested in the things that young people are interested in? And as we learn to get to know them better and build relationship with them, then we can begin to find out their gifts, their abilities, and hopefully then hand over the keys, which is something that's hard at times in the local church, but hand over some responsibility to young people, not just for the sake of handing over responsibility, but finding the areas where they have giftedness and working alongside them to help give them opportunities to grow as young disciples of Jesus.
Well, I think too, if we would give the time, we would find that we do share a lot of things that we
Right.
value. Maybe we use different language, or maybe it's a different manifestation in the current like iteration, right? But underlying, there's certain things that we are valuing, and taking the time to just even talk with youth
Right.
and to understand what you value. And I hear in kind of what you're saying too is this isn't a way, you can't just say, well, all youth care about this.
Yes.
Right.
That the youth, however because even what we're using is youth, right? Is
Yeah, what is that?
we might slightly mean different
Yep.
ages in saying that. But I think for me, that's what I'm partly hearing this too is, and that's part of our discipleship is sitting with someone and listening and hearing what they value without judgment, but also then maybe seeing like, well, where is there cross-pollination or things there?
Yeah, along those lines, we've talked a lot about intergenerational
Right.
connectedness. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Well, I mean, a youth, depending on what age, right? If they're not of driving age, they're not going to come to any outside of their house function without a parent or caregiver driving them. And so having a fight with grandma or grandpa to take them somewhere, or getting in an argument about wanting to go somewhere that the parents don't see as valuable or their caregiver doesn't see as valuable is equally a struggle as far as over planning. Families today, whatever that family looks like, is over planned. And research also shows that Gen Alpha is the first generation in a few that the children or youth value time with their family unit, because these are the young people who lived through the pandemic as, younger kids, and now they're teenagers, and the safest place they feel is home. And they value what their parents share with them most. They value lessons that they learn from family. Like the family unit is important, whatever that looks like. So if local churches aren't paying attention to family units and what family units need, then we're missing a whole demographic, because without being intergenerational in ministry, whether that be through missions, whether that be through Bible study, whether that be intergenerational in worship versus multi-generational, which is a whole different thing, then we're missing people and desires to grow in spirituality is what young people today would call it.
Yeah, that one thing I think for older adults that could be mindful of as part of their discipleship journey is what relationships are they building with younger people, and how might that happen? There's an intimidation that often is there. There's a generalization would be that young people are intimidated of older people. That's really not so much true, but you often will see what the older generations are intimidated by the younger generations because, think about it. Technology is so much different than when they were young, and they just feel like maybe things are so different based on stereotypes. If we in our churches could facilitate conversation, then we begin to help young and old see how much they are more alike as opposed to different. So how does that then help someone, whether they be young or old, on their discipleship journey? Well, at the very basic level, it shows that we all are on this journey together and that we need each other. I think that's an important aspect to faith development of a young person.
Well, I would think even, there are going to be times too when we connect across, that we find we're different. But as long as we respect that and we're curious about it, right? Like, then that also does that same thing. As long as we're, it's not that we're different, so you're wrong.
But in a safe setting.
Yes, in a safe setting. So, and again, we honor that we know a lot of people are deeply committed to trying to reach younger folks, however they might define that. So what would be something, as two people who work in this, that you could suggest that would help churches reach youth, care for youth, I should say? Like, because reach, often when we use that, we mean reach so you come to Sunday worship. So we're going to say care for youth. And and their families?
I mean, I think listening to a group of young people and families, whatever that family looks like, to find out needs. I mean, the church exists for the world, not for itself. And if we don't listen to what the world needs, then we aren't listening like Christ listens.
I love that. And I also think listening is part of discipleship. Like we cannot be really good disciples, I think, and not listen. Not just, we need to listen to God, of course, but also others that God puts us in connection with. And deep listening and without an agenda is actually, I think, pretty rare in a lot of people's lives right now. Of like, I listen to you for the sake of listening to you. What a gift as we think about, I mean, the theme of our series here is about everyday discipleship. Amen. It is about listening to people of all ages.
Right. I think along those same lines, it's just do things that you're already doing with intentionality.
Right.
You know, everybody eats, everybody most people seem to be open about sharing meals together if it can be done in perhaps a hospitable way, of course. But facilitate maybe some connectedness between generations, number one. It may not be as hard as you think. There are always going to be opportunities for any adult to show support for young people, and there are vast ways that could be explored, but you could certainly show up at sporting events, the musicals, the things that are happening in the school it's on their turf. And you don't have to go out of your way to greet them, although you could. But just by being present, maybe send them a handwritten card that says, hey, I saw you in the musical, and wow, you did such a great job. As opposed to the intimidation of like going up to them after the show and when they're gathered with their friends.
Here's your flowers.
Right, exactly. So there are some simple things like that. But like as far as like, you know, you talked about family ministry, like be intentional about ministering to their parents, because if they, to your point, if they can't drive, they're not going to ever come to your church unless they're within walking distance. And that's even...
I mean, I'm not letting my kids walk to some random church.
So minister to their parents. Give their parents a purpose, a reason to want to be a part of something bigger.
And it might not be in the building.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I love that. I love that you named going to where they are already, what they're doing. Show that. I mean, that's a ministry of presence, right? It's just showing up. And then also maybe you're organized of activities or whatever don't have to happen in the building either, which just isn't always, I mean, depending on your building, some buildings are wonderfully conducive to different activities. Some are not.
Right.
Yeah.
Like some are cold, literally.
On top of that, though, like just own the fact that things are different. And I know that can be hard, but like we have to acknowledge that the youth culture of today, post-pandemic, things have changed. Students have changed. We have to recognize that, and there's plenty of data that we could point you to that shows that.
Yep.
So,
Want to have some fun?
yeah, we're gonna have a little bit of fun. Anne Marie has agreed to stay for. This is one we've not done before.
Okay.
A myth versus truth. So I'm just gonna give you to a statement, and you're gonna tell me whether it's a myth or a truth. And unless I ask for it, you can't give more than that.
Okay.
All right, Tim. This will be hard for you.
I know.
Yeah, Tim's already failed at the practice one earlier, just in case you guys.
So is it myth and truth?
Oh yeah, that's hand signals.
Wait, what?
Like
Myth, truth.
Oh, I just only know how to do that.
I was
so.
Tim keeps throwing peace
Peace
signs. I don't know.
signs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, myth or truth? Young people don't like church.
Myth.
Myth.
I like that your myth was a question mark. Anne Marie's was solid. So, all right. People only come to church for preaching.
I hope a myth. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's a myth. As a preacher, I'm
a lot of
open.
pressure on them.
Okay. Myth or truth? Faith grows through practices, not just knowledge.
Absolute truth.
True. Showing up matters more than having the right thing to say.
Truth.
Belonging often comes before believing.
Truth.
Okay, and I'm just curious, belonging before believing, what does that mean then for connecting with younger people today?
A young person is not going to believe what you say until they know you care about them.
Yeah.
And no one can feel like they belong somewhere if they don't feel cared for.
That's a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback off that, I mean, it's not like the disciples fully believed everything before they belonged. They didn't even fully believe it till the book of Acts. So.
Absolutely. All right, we're gonna do one more, and then we're gonna pivot to a mailbag here. But we can reach new people without changing anything. I'm not sure we can reach the old people even without. I mean, like the people already here, really.
Yeah,
without.
that's not.
Yeah. So if you want to reach new people of any age, to be clear, that is not an age statement.
No.
That is. So, all right. So we did get this mailbag question, which felt a little perfect to ask the two of you, to be honest. So only 13% of Gen Z identify as Christian. Do you think they will ever come back to church? Also, as a follow-up question of how. I'd be kind of curious on why.
Well, that's true.
But okay.
You just asked 3 questions.
Yeah.
I did.
You said it was 1 question, and then you just asked 3.
That's a good point. So we'll just, the first question is technically just yes or no. So do you think Gen Z will return to church or go to church? Some of them, it's not really a return.
Some of them, they've not returned. The statistics show us that Gen Z is the generation that is currently in the lead of becoming a part of faith communities.
Yeah, if there's a desire, seems like there definitely is a desire for spirituality, for sure.
Yes.
And if we can get them to see that the church honors their values, but can show them the way that Christ could come alongside them on their faith journey.
Also realize Gen Z, some of them are parents now.
Yeah.
Some of them are not. Some of them are. Why would
It could be offering something for their children.
So yes,
that might bring
I think that Gen Z will attend faith communities.
There's always that potential. We would hope.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think too, for me, part of this just goes back to, I think they are hungry for spaces where belonging exists, where they can be authentically themselves, where there is listening, like you guys said earlier. And so really, I mean, if we would like to see them connected with our churches, I feel like the number one thing is then to show them how a disciple is different in this by doing those things every day with them.
Gen Z is in communities, right? Like they've created communities outside of local churches. They're in communities. It's a life stage of building what their tribe looks like. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember being in the age group that Gen Z is now in. And when I went to local faith communities, I didn't look like I belonged because I didn't fit the mold of anyone that I saw, right? And so part of it is providing space that might not be in the building, but providing space as a whole for Gen Z to gather in ways that are authentic to them. And if that's a Gen Zer with a young family, it might be bringing their child as a part of it, as a part of the intergenerational experience of discipleship.
I don't know that there's much. Or are you going to try? I was going to say, I don't know if there's a better way to end this, but apparently Tim thinks he has it. What was it, Tim? Come on.
Well, I was just going to say, if you think it back in the day, I don't know if it's true. But no, back in the day, there were times when people came back to church because they had children.
Right.
And I think what I'm hearing you say is that actually is kind of happening again because that Gen Z, they do value community highly. They are finding it in other spaces. The church can learn a lot from that.
Right.
But they're still hungry for it. So if we can show that there's something distinct that we have to offer.
Well, and what does that look like for a Gen Z single person or a single parent or not just...
It's a fair point.
You know, what does that look like? It's going to look different in every context. There's not this is what it needs to look like, and you will have Gen Z.
Right.
Well, and that really goes back to, I think, some of the premise we've talked about in other episodes is that none of this is like, do this and this will happen.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really not discipleship. And for any time that has felt like somebody has said that's either been misleading or
Right.
or not as they meant. But we just go back to, so if you want to connect, listen, make that space. Don't try and make one size fits all.
Right.
And that's good, faithful work. I think sometimes as United Methodists, we get kind of hooked into like, but we want to do something. Like, what's the program?
Right.
Well, it sounds to me like part of what you're saying is some of this answer is relationship.
Yeah.
Build the
100%.
relationship.
Right.
And then that also will change how you're interacting with it too. 'Cause
Right.
when I have a relationship with you, then I'm also more maybe willing to sacrifice things that are important to me because I care for you,
Right.
not in an abstract way, but in a
Right.
known way.
Right. And I think that's where the church as a whole gets hung up sometimes, because when we think, oh, well, I want them to be a part of church, I want them to be a part of church. But really, being a part of church is being a part of community. It's
Yeah.
about being in relationship with God and with other people who are on this journey, as we've said, together. And we get so hung up almost in a box of what church is that we forget it's the people.
Well,
There
with
we go.
that,
Church
Anne
is
Marie,
people.
yeah, church is the people. And the people are disciples. And I think that just can't be more perfect.
Yep.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining us and for all that you do. And thank you all.